Alright, good evening ladies. The Jito airdrop has just concluded and it was absolutely enormous. Congrats to anyone who watched my videos on Solana DeFi Summer. I made a few videos on Solana, upcoming Solana airdrop, so if you followed my advice and staked some Jito with JitoSol, please let me know in the comments I'm very happy for you. The minimum allocation for JitoSol right now is valued well over $10,000. Like, all you needed to do was stake, I think, 2 Solana for a few days within the last few months, and you would have got that minimum allocation. So this just goes to show that you don't need a huge wallet to farm these airdrops. Like, a lot of people have the idea that it's only worth farming if you have a load of capital to farm with. Well, Jito actually massively disproportionately rewarded small wallets. So like the smallest wallets got 10 times the amount of allocation proportionally in comparisons to the largest wallets. Meaning for every SOL that they staked, they got 10 times the amount of Jito in comparisons to the very largest wallets. So the real play here was to set up a load of unconnected wallets and farm that way, but who could have known that beforehand? But in today's video, I don't want to talk too much about Jito. I want to talk about what's the next upcoming airdrops. Like, if you missed this one, or if you didn't miss this one, what are the next Solana airdrops that are worth farming? Now, you can probably hear it in my voice. I'm got a terrible dose of the man flu, so if you appreciate me making this video, I had to get this video out because, you know, this airdrop was absolutely crazy. And yeah, I'm imagining a lot of people are now finally starting to pay attention to Solana and to the Solana DeFi ecosystem. And I've been saying this for months and months and months. I've been saying that the next DeFi summer is going to be on Solana, and I think this entire cycle is going to be the Solana manlet cycle. So I assume you haven't been it, but if you have been fading Solana all this way up the run up, waiting for a dip, like, I think at some point you kind of just need to bite the bullet and potentially start dollar cost averaging into Solana. Not financial advice, but I think this cycle Solana, it's looking like the kingmaker trade. So this was a post I made about a month ago, and if you'd see like the second part of that tweet, I've basically said these are 4 transactions you can make on Solana that will qualify you for 5 different airdrops. My first point in this tweet was that at this time, and even still, the total value locked in Solana is quite comparatively low in comparisons to its market cap. And most people said, oh look, Solana doesn't have much TVL. No one's really using Solana. Solana's not that good. The TVL is so low. But when you actually think about it, that means that it's a massive opportunity. If you think Solana is going to grow over the next couple of years, the fact that the TVL, the total value locked in these DeFi platforms, is low means that there's less airdrop to share out with this TVL. If the TVL is lower, you're going to get a bigger piece of that pie. Alright, so let's get into the farming strategies. What are some of the things you could do to get potential airdrops, upcoming, probably good airdrops in the Solana ecosystem? And the nice thing about farming on Solana is that the gas fees are basically negligible, so you can farm away with a lot of transactions without like destroying your wallet. Alright, so as we know, for Jito, all you had to do to get the airdrop was stake a bit of Solana with them. So you got a liquid staking token in return for staking your Solana with Jito. So that was called JTO. So what are some other liquid staking protocols on Solana? Well, there's 3 that we can mention in today's video. There's probably a lot more, but I don't want this video to be an hour long. So the first one is Marinade. The second one is Blaze. So you get MSOL for Marinade, BSOL for Blaze, and both of them already have tokens, but if you stake with them, you're continually earning more and more tokens. So the first thing I would do if I wanted to farm these airdrops, I would go to Marinade or I would go to Blaze, and I would stake a bit of my Solana, so whatever you feel comfortable with losing. You don't want to put your entire bag in these protocols, in these platforms, you know, just in case something goes wrong. This is DeFi, this is the Wild West, anything can happen. So just you don't have to go crazy putting your entire net worth into a protocol, but get a bit of MSOL, get a bit of BSOL, and the next step is you're going to go to marginfi. And marginfi is a borrow lend platform. Think of it like the Aave on Solana. So with your BSOL and with your MSOL, you can put it up as collateral and you can borrow against it on marginfi. So if you want to take on some risk, you can put up that MSOL, let's say, as collateral. You can borrow US dollars. You can buy more Solana with those US dollars. You can then stake that Solana for more MSOL, put it up for collateral, borrow US dollars, and repeat this cycle as many times as you want to be degenerate. And in that way, you'll be borrowing a lot of money and you'll be lending a lot of money. So the more you lend and the more you borrow, the more rewards you're going to get. But obviously the problem with this is that you're borrowing US dollars. So if the price of Solana drops a lot, your collateral goes less than the amount you've borrowed in US dollars, you could get liquidated and lose it all. So you have to be careful, very careful with that strategy. You can do a little bit of that, but just be very careful. The way to do this with pretty much no liquidation risk is to put up BSOL, let's say, as collateral, and borrow MSOL. So in that way, even if the price of Solana doubles, or even if the price of Solana goes in half, your collateral and the amount you've borrowed are going to be the same value because they're both basically Solana. And also on top of that, you're going to be earning the staker rewards because you're going to have either the BSOL or the MSOL in your wallet earning rewards for staking. So the way to maximize your points on marginfi is to borrow as much as possible without a possibility of you getting liquidated, because borrowing gets 4 times the amount of points that lending does. And you can actually see your points on this leaderboard. But the thing is, I'm not sure that the marginfi airdrop is going to be as amazing as some people think it is. The founder himself basically said, don't try and farm this, it's not going to be worth your time, which is potentially just trying to get people not to farm it and just to use it organically. But also, when you look at the top of the leaderboard, those guys, I think the number 1 person has 1 billion points. And I've been farming on marginfi for a few weeks. I think I have 300,000 points, so over 1,000x more points than me. So I'm not sure how much this marginfi airdrop will be worth for the little guy, you know what I mean? Nevertheless, it's better than nothing, but obviously there's going to be some platform risk with that, so you could skip marginfi if you wanted. And let's move on to the next platform that you can use your stake Solana in. Okay, so the next platform to take a look at is called Camino. Here, essentially, you could provide liquidity, and the way to do this in a risk-free way is to provide liquidity for something like BSOL versus SOL. So that's one of the options there that you can see, or UXD for USDC. The reason that that's the risk-free way is that you're providing liquidity. So essentially, you're getting paid pretty good rewards for providing liquidity. So basically, you're providing liquidity for people on dexes to get in and out of from BSOL to SOL without incurring a huge loss on that trade. So for example, if you're providing liquidity on the BSOL to SOL pair, obviously BSOL versus SOL, there's not going to be a huge discrepancy in price. If SOL goes up, of course BSOL is going to go up pretty much a similar amount. So there's no chance of impermanent loss. Whereas if you're providing liquidity for SOL versus USD and SOL went to $1,000, let's say, all your SOL would have got sold for USD. So all you're going to be left with is USD. So that's what impermanent loss essentially is. But with Camino, if you're providing liquidity on these kind of USD to USD pairs, obviously, again, the US dollar is not going to change in price, so there's no chance of impermanent loss. But you're also getting paid really nice rewards, 4%. And on top of that, very likely that Camino at some point is going to do an airdrop for people who are providing liquidity. So that's the next place I would look at if I wanted to get into the Solana DeFi. Moving on to the next platform, this is one that I really like personally, and I've mentioned it a lot on this channel. In my opinion, the number 1 NFT exchange across all chains, it's Tensor. Tensor is such a good product. It has literal trading view style charts for NFT projects. It's so clean, it's so nice. There's so many nice features. Blur did a great job with their platform, but I think Tensor is even better than Blur. And the other thing about Tensor is they have these really good charts, but also it's built on Solana. So there's no gas fees on Solana. So trading of NFTs is, a lot more interesting to me on Solana for the next cycle than trading Ethereum NFTs. Now, here's a little bit of moon math that this guy, wronguser000, says on Twitter, but Jito pretty much opened at the same fully diluted valuation as Lido. So Jito is kind of the Lido on Solana. So if Tensor opened at the same fully diluted valuation that Blur is right now, the average airdrop for a Tensor user would be 5,000. Now, obviously, there's going to be a huge exponential curve, as in the top farmers on Tensor are going to get a lot, and the smallest ones are going to get much less than 5,000. But the average airdrop would be 5,000 if you were just an average sized trader on Tensor. So how do we go about farming or using Tensor for maximizing our points? And if you do want to use any of the platforms in this video and you did enjoy this video, I would appreciate it if you could use my referral links. It's no difference to you, but it helps me a little bit, so I would appreciate that. Tensor, also hit that referral link in the description. So I think in regards to Tensor, like for the Blur airdrop, I didn't try to farm Blur whatsoever, and I still got a nice airdrop. So definitely using Tensor organically can work very well. So this means bidding on NFTs. So the thing I wouldn't go doing is just buying NFTs directly on Tensor, like just going and sweeping the floor. Like maybe you could do that a little bit, but I think what is better for points wise is bidding on collections, bidding on traits. So if you want to buy an NFT, put the highest bid, like put a bid that's a little bit below or a little bit above the highest bid that's already there. You're going to get a lot of points for that. Now, a lot of people will try and game the system and put bids in that they know will never get filled. And I think Tensor are kind of onto that. They don't want people who are just bidding on NFT collections and always lowering their bid so it never gets filled. So if you're doing that, you probably might get your points a little bit deducted or something like that. So you actually want some of your bids to eventually hit. But you do kind of have to balance it out. Be like, okay, I'm going to bid on these NFTs, in the fact that you don't want to bid on NFTs that you don't actually want to end up going into your wallet and be like, oh shit, now the price is tanked. Why did I buy this? Why did I buy this silly sausage NFT? The price has gone to zero. That's obviously not what you want to happen. So bid on NFTs that you actually want. And then when they end up in your wallet, you can list them again a little bit above the floor. So you want to bid and list somewhat organically, so somewhat close to the floor. So you want to bid and list somewhat organically. So you kind of want your bids to stay there as long as possible and your listings to stay there for quite a while, but you also want them to hit sometimes. And I would also kind of look at all the different things you can do on Tensor and try and do them if you wanted. Like, so for example, you could buy some inscriptions. So these are like ordinals on Solana, a new concept that like kind of seems stupid, but potentially just do it anyway for the airdrop. And the other thing you can do is you can put money into an escrow wallet. So this is similar to Blur if you've used Blur before, but you can put money into Tensor, an escrow wallet, and then you can bid with the same, like let's say you have 100 Solana that you want to bid on NFTs. You can bid across multiple collection with that 100 Sol in your escrow wallet. So essentially you could have bids for like 10 grand, or 10,000 Solana, because you could just keep bidding off on every collection with the same 100 Solana. The other feature that they have, you could try to do these lucky buys once in a while. So you have like a 1% chance of, if say a mad land is 100 Solana, I know it's 200, but let's say it's a 100, you could put up 1 Solana and you have a 1% chance of winning, and most likely your Solana is going to get burnt, but there's a 1% chance you could win a mad lad. Maybe you could use that feature if you want to gamble, because it's probably going to give you points as well. So the last thing that you could do if you wanted to farm Tensor, and I think Tensor is one of the most, for me, is the most interesting one to farm personally. I think Tensor is a really like the top platform, so I think it'll probably be valued a lot once it does drop. But the other thing you could do is buy and stake a Tensorian. Now, the Tensorians are essentially the NFT project made by Tensor, and if you buy a Tensorian and you stake it, you just get passive points. Now, I bought one of these at 20 Solana and I bought another at 30. And since this airdrop has happened, they just mooned up to 90. Now, I sold mine for 30 and 40, so I made a little bit of Solana. I staked them, I earned some Tensor points, but obviously sold too early with Tensorians as well. So, but I do kind of think buying into Tensorians is somewhat risky in the fact that once the airdrop comes, like there's not really a huge amount of utility to holding a Tensorian. Like a lot of the price of a Tensorian right now is basically people farming the airdrop. So you just have to play it right. You have to sell at the right time before everyone else tries to get out of Tensorians. So you just got to be a bit careful if you're using that strategy, in my opinion. Yeah, we have a lot of platforms to get through. The next one is probably up there with Tensorians in one of the best platforms on the entire Solana ecosystem, and that of course is Jupiter. Jupiter is where 80% of Solana volume of Solana tokens goes through. Jupiter is a DEX aggregator, so basically it goes to every single DEX, so it goes to Orchid, it goes to Radium, all the other ones, finds you the best price, like, so it simulates a transaction on all of these different exchanges and then finds you the best price and does the trade for you there. And if you look at like the UI of Jupiter, it's so clean, it's so crisp, it's so easy to understand, and there's a few different things you can do on there. So for any of the trades you're going to make, I would definitely use Jupiter. If you want to buy Sol with USDC, for example, or sell Sol for USDC, do it on Jupiter. Don't make it look like you're farming, but also use all the different features that they have on this platform. What I like to do is the DCA feature. Like, you can't do this on any centralized exchange, but here you can DCA into a coin, or you can DCA out of a coin by saying, okay, every minute I want you to sell 1 Sol, or every minute I want you to buy 100 bonk coins for the next 400 minutes. So DCA is really cool because it's just a transaction every single minute, or a transaction every hour, or a transaction every day, and you can just set it and forget it. So real nice little feature there for people who like dollar cost averaging into a position and dollar cost averaging out, which is what I like to do. The other thing obviously that they have is limit orders. With most decks don't have limit orders, so buy this amount. If it drops to this price, buy this amount. If it goes up to this price, sell this amount. That's what a limit order is. And finally, the perp platforms. This is for leverage trading. So if you want to put a 10x long on Solana, you think Solana's going to go up, put a little 10x long on Solana on Jupiter. Probably a lot of people are doing this, as you can see. Like, a lot of people are doing this, but bridge your assets from Ethereum or any other blockchain, bridge them over to Solana using the Jupiter bridge. Now, I've watched a couple of interviews with the founder of Jupiter. He is extremely smart, extremely good guy. I really think Jupiter is going to be a huge platform. Like, they're 100% focused on making the platform as good for the customer as possible, optimizing everything. Like, the difference between Ethereum and Solana, how I think, is that Solana is like 100% focused on optimization, 100% created by the top engineers, whereas Ethereum's more, they're more scholarly, they're more, thinking about things, but not really, like, the engineering prowess isn't the same as it is on Solana. And the top engineers are moving to Solana because they think there's more things you can do on Solana. So that's why Solana attracts these top level engineers, like the guys who created Jupiter. Alright, I hope that was enough for you, but I do also have some honorable mentions that I think this video is going to be really long already, but here's some other ones you might want to look at. I don't want to go too deep into them, but I'm sure you can work it out for yourself. But there's different perps exchanges, so there's different leverage trading platforms that you can use on Solana. So the likes of Zeta Markets and Drift Protocol are the two top ones. So the nice thing about leverage trading platforms is that you can rack up a lot of volume with only a small amount of starting capital, because you could potentially use up to 100x leverage, for example. Now, obviously, there's a high likelihood you could get liquidated, so don't do that just to earn points on these exchanges. But, like, you could potentially be a little bit smart and long certain things at a perfect time and try and get up a lot of volume without losing any money. That's probably a way you could play it for these leverage trading platforms. The other honorable mention is Parcel. So this is essentially perps except on real estate. So you can bet on real estate prices in different countries around the world. So you could long or short real estate prices. So very interesting concept. Haven't seen this on Ethereum, but yeah, I think this is cool and interesting, and maybe one you might want to take a look at. And the last honorable mention is Birdeye. So Birdeye essentially is the DEX tools, or the DEX screener of Solana. It actually goes across all chains, but it's what most Solana people use. And they've kind of hinted at a token. Now, I'm not sure that they're going to do a token. It's worth using their platform, connecting your wallet, maybe creating an account there, and maybe even do a few trades through Birdeye. They have a little trade section on the right. So potentially do that as well. So I do think some of these airdrops mentioned in today's video, for the people who farm them correctly, are going to be extremely rewarding. However, I wouldn't expect a $10,000 airdrop from all of them, because the JitoSol airdrop was so big, and it was so big because no one was really paying attention to it. There's only 10,000 wallets that were eligible for it, but because it was so big, now obviously there's a lot of people like you right now who are watching the Solana ecosystem. So now there's going to be more competition and potentially a smaller slice of each pie. So I wouldn't get your hopes up oh, if I farm this one with 100 different wallets, I'm going to get $1 million airdrop. But at the same time, it's 100% not to be ignored. I think doing some of the things that I mentioned in today's video is almost definitely worth the time of doing it. Not financial advice, of course, but that's what I'm going to be doing anyway. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Really, really appreciate you watching, and see you later. Cheers.